Department of Justice withholds incriminating Trump Epstein files. This is Law and Society. Please subscribe. And let's get started talking about what is happening with the Epstein files. Remember, I am talking about this, and I know that I am under the shadow of the war that has just been started by Israel against Iran, and it also involves the United States. I understand that, but these are also things that are happening that we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to these things because Donald Trump wants to involve himself in a war, wants to involve America in a war to distract us away from the substantive things that are happening in the country. And one of the substantive things happening in the country is the Epstein files release and the fallout from it. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from Professor Heather Cox Richardson's letter on the 26th of February. She writes, on Tuesday morning, Stephen Fowler of NPR built upon earlier reporting by independent journalist Roger Sollenberger to report that the Department of Justice appears to have illegally withheld materials from the Epstein files. That material is related to allegations that Trump sexually assaulted two girls when they were about 13 years old. 13 years old. The DOJ also removed from the files, they did publish documents that mention Trump among allegations against convicted sex abuser Epstein. When Fowler asked the White House about the missing documents, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson told him that Trump has done more for Epstein's victims than anyone before him. Fowler notes that on February 14th, Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche told Congress that they had not withheld or redacted any records on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. The Epstein Files Transparency Act, which required the DOJ to release all the files no later than December 19, 2025, prohibits that type of redactions, permitting them only to protect Epstein's victims and survivors. After NPR reported the story, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Robert Garcia of California, released a statement saying, yesterday I reviewed unredacted evidence that at the Department of Justice. Oversight Democrats can confirm that the DOJ appears to have illegally withheld FBI interviews with this survivor who accused President Trump of heinous crimes. So we now have something to show that Donald Trump's DOJ is violating the Epstein Transparency Act specifically to shield Donald Trump from heinous crimes. And the fact that DOJ still has 3 million files that they have not shared also goes to showing that clearly there are names and incidents that they are not allowing to be in public view. And we are seeing that with this news coming out, that Donald Trump's Department of Justice is shielding Donald Trump from any repercussions or any fallout that happens from the Epstein files. It is important to note that even as we live in a world where we pass the Epstein Transparency Act and where we keep demanding, we have been for the last year, that there is a release of all of the Epstein files, so much so that Congress, by unanimous consent, passed a law that required DOJ to release the files, and we are still in a place where half the files have not been released, and one of the files specifically talks about crimes committed by Donald Trump. It is a given at this point that Pam Bondi is protecting Donald Trump. And Pam Bondi and that DOJ is going to continue to shield Donald Trump from any liability or any fallout, even if they know that Donald Trump has committed sex crimes against minors. It is important to note at this point that child sex crimes in most jurisdictions in the United States do not have statutes of limitation, which means that the perpetrators can be held liable in criminal and in civil court at any time, and there is no limit to when that time lapses when they can bring lawsuits. So I pray that Donald Trump lives a long life after he leaves the White House in 3 years so that he can be prosecuted and he can be sued by the survivors of his horrific torture, because those crimes do not have any statute of limitations. So with that said, thank you so much for listening. Keep up to date with all of the news because it is all important. Don't let just the shadow of the Iran war take your attention away from all the other things that are happening. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you soon.